30. Are we live? We're live! Can you believe All right, let me just tag everyone in this bad rabbit. Hope everyone's having a great Thursday out there.
Yeah, survive the cool eclipse. Ready for the season?
I think we were talking about that, right? I didn't even really notice the eclipse was happening. I think I realized it too late when I was like, man, why did it get so dark all of a sudden? It
Can you
didn't,
imagine in ancient times how that must have felt?
yeah,
What? The world is ending? It's kind of wild.
it didn't get as dark as I thought it would here,
Mm,
which was interesting. But
and depends
in
on
any
where you
case,
live.
how mindfulness can motivate weight loss. I'm
Well,
excited. What made you want to choose this topic today? Why is this important?
I think I've just been shown more and more in the past couple of days how important it is to slow down and be mindful. And I got my own, I don't want to call it a warning, but on my drive to school today, I'm feeling really agitated and I couldn't understand why. And I was like, maybe you need to just take a few nice deep breaths, stand outside for a little bit, do the things you know that help you calm down. And it worked like magic.
So why would being mindful or being sounds like Zen help with being motivated to do the things, the actions that allow us to lose weight or get the body we want? Because it's not all about weight loss, right?
Yeah, I think it's having that awareness in your body, noticing how you feel, and then you notice when you feel good, and then you notice when you don't feel so good, and you make choices based on those kind of actions and the things that bring you the feelings that you want to feel.
Makes sense. So, like, if you are in a good state of mind, you are you're more likely to make a good decision or a decision that will, help you move forward versus if you're in a negative state of mind, it's easy to maybe want to cope with negative actions. Maybe,
Right.
you plan on having one Magnum ice cream pop, but you have two because, you know,
Right.
you're feeling a little weight today. Okay,
Mhm.
so mindfulness can help with weight loss. Okay, I'm sold on that idea.
Okay.
Now, what would be some ways, or how do I start? So like I'm fresh, I'm new, or maybe I do a little bit of mindfulness. Like, where do I start mindfulness? That sounds so big.
Okay, so awesome. We'll take some mindfulness with us to go. I think a really great place to apply it, because we're already in a habit of eating, is to sit down when you eat, put your feet flat on the floor, take a couple of deep breaths. That kind of helps you into your body, and maybe check in with your emotional state, because you're going to eat with more mindfulness and hopefully more calm if you're in a calm place. But if you notice, oh, I'm feeling stressed or I'm feeling anxious about this, maybe you need to talk it out or write it out before you put that fork in your mouth.
So, okay, so sitting down, taking 30 seconds to a minute to breathe before eating, uh, and that does have a lot of benefits, right? I mean, the benefits that leads into better digestion, it leads into better feelings of knowing when you're full, better in tune.
Mhm.
Um, okay, how would I do that though? Because let's say I'm super busy. Like, how do I even remember to stop, or how do I find the time to stop, to breathe, to do that? Like, that sounds like if I'm stressed out, essentially in fight or flight mode through something,
Right.
how am I going to stop for that 30 seconds to a minute? How do I make that a habit?
I prefer visuals that kind of prompt you to breathe, or like we were talking about last time, writing it on your arm to kind of remind you to do that. Or if at the beginning of your meal isn't the best time for you to have that practice, maybe it's right at the end after you put your fork down. That's when you take a breath, check in with your body. I would prefer it before, just because I think that's going to help you be more mindful with your food. But at any time that you can get it in, is a good time.
Okay, so some physical cues, whether
Mhm.
it be an alarm on your phone, as you said, like a little, like we were saying, Sharpie right on your arm, or something on your hand, or just something in the environment that triggers you to do it.
I
Okay,
could say the fork would be the trigger, right? It could be.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
maybe
with
even putting it
mindfulness too.
down between bites and taking a breath too, as you want to expand this practice if you have more time. But even just taking that one or two breaths before you pick up the fork might be a great prompt and
I
cue.
like it.
Mhm.
What's another way I can like start to practice mindfulness so that I can motivate my weight loss?
Um, I think maybe checking in when you're working out or when you exercise, like how does that make you feel? So maybe then you'll be even more motivated to do it again because you took the time right after you were done or right before you began to check in to see how you were feeling. Oh, I feel pretty good. Let's repeat.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, because I know sometimes it's easy to optimize actions for results when we're just kind of like ignoring how we feel, and it's like, it doesn't matter how I feel, just do the thing. So you're saying take a moment. and assess. Like if you are doing something and you don't enjoy it or you hate it, like on a scale of black to white, 1 to 10, like how much do you enjoy it or not enjoy it? And maybe there's some answers in there that we can learn from.
And
Okay.
maybe you didn't know prior to. Maybe you're like, "Oh, I hate this type of workout." Well, there's plenty of other options. That doesn't mean you hate working out. You that just
Yeah.
particular one just maybe isn't for you. And then you find the one that you're like, "Oh, I love Zumba and weightlifting." Awesome. Keep doing that or whatever it is. But if you don't take the time to notice, you might not even understand why am I some people call it self-sabotaging behaviors or why is there so many barriers to working out? Maybe
Yeah.
because you didn't like what you're doing. So change what you're doing.
100%. Is this resonating with anybody out there? If it is, if you're watching this on live or recording, let us know. Drop a comment. Let us know. If you have a
Oh,
question about this, let us know as well. Feel free to like this as well. It shows it to more people. Good morning, Gloria. Good to see you here. Okay, I
yeah.
like that. Yeah, I think too, there's sometimes we do something once or twice and we're being mindful about it and we say, okay, I didn't like it, so I'm not going to do it again. But
Mhm,
it's less about, in my opinion, what we're doing and it's how we're doing it. For example,
mhm,
if I was weightlifting and not and I was doing a ton of volume, meaning a lot of sets with low intensity, not listening to music, and essentially just like there with the weights, I would be bored out of my mind and I probably wouldn't weightlift often.
mhm,
But so it's like the action of weightlifting isn't the issue. The action is what I'm doing around it.
mhm,
So maybe it's the type of intensity. Like I like to push myself on a couple hard sets. That's where I feel like a lot of enjoyment. And
mhm,
I do it with pumping music. So like
mm,
the music I listen to, it always changes. It might be like something a little more aggressive, it might be something a little more slow, and then there's a big drop and you go. Um, but I like to have almost kind of the opposite from the zoomed out philosophy as far as consistency over intensity. But with individual workouts, my workouts, intensity shorter, like Tabata style almost, where it's like I'm going, loud music. I love it.
mhm.
It's so fun. But like, if you're gonna tell me like, hey, no music, sit there and do your weight training, I'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna go do something else.
Yeah, that's
That's
a good
what it is.
point too, changing it up, just the variety of things to see what and one day might feel better some days than others and might think some days you need a little bit calming music, some days you need that stuff to pump you up, and just to play
Yeah.
around with it and just notice what you notice. But it all takes that mindfulness piece, right? To notice where you're at and then adjust accordingly.
Where's another place I could exercise some mindfulness to motivate my weight loss?
For stress management, maybe when you have
Okay.
stressful patients or stressful people or stressful drivers, or you're just having a day, I think taking a moment to take a step back and take a breath. Kind of, we can do those breathing exercises again. You can just look outside, supposed to taking your gaze away from screens and looking at nature is supposed to be calming to your brain. And if you want to help, if you want to go even farther, you can hum or sing. Your vagus nerve loves that stuff. And so you have lots of fun things already available for you that are free.
I like that. So bring kind of actions that bring you back to the moment, with the trigger being you feel the rise in whatever it might be, anxiety, anger, irritability. I was watching a video yesterday, and it was saying it's actually, maybe we can pivot into this. It was talking about the 5 questions you should ask yourself every day, and these questions can allow you to start to unpack some of the emotions you're feeling, because feelings not given time manifest into other undesirable traits or feelings. For example, anger unaddressed and not
Depressed.
given the space leads to irritability.
Mm,
And the question is, if you're feeling irritable, what are you angry about? That's an
mhm,
interesting question.
mhm,
What made me angry? What am I angry about? And it's funny because I've noticed sometimes, like, because I'm human, sometimes my dog barks super loud. He's a Lancashire healer. He's so freaking cute, and that's how they get you,
mhm,
because they get you to adopt him, and then they. But I've had him for like 5 years. He's a great dog. He's very loving, but yeah, he barks really loud, and it like goes off the walls. So it's like sometimes I'm like, oh, he's just trying to do a job, which is like protect us. Somebody's coming.
mhm,
Somebody's delivering a package. I get it. And other times I'm like,
mhm,
I am going to throw you through this window, right? So it's
mhm,
like this irritability. And it allows me to take a moment. That's a trigger for me where I can go, well, what is the anger on
Right.
whatever. And it might be I'm angry because, something isn't performing as well, or an expectation I had isn't being met, whatever it is.
Mhm.
And it just kind of gives you that moment of pause. I'm going to look up these other questions, but what's your thought on that?
It's kind of important to ask why. And kind of you almost sound like that little child who just keeps asking why. But if you're like, why am I angry? Well, I just this loud noise is irritating me. Well, why does that irritate you? Well, I didn't get enough sleep last night. Well, what,
Mm,
keep going. You might find out why. I'm afraid I'm going to be the bag lady on the corner of the street if I don't, manage this. I don't know. But I think
right.
sometimes if you have the time to kind of go into that ever deepening why to just really just come to the root of what's going on.
Yes. Yeah. It's self exploration. I
Mhm.
think at the core of mindfulness is, maybe some self exploration. And I think that if we really want to master our body, we have to master our mind, which it's scary
And I think it's
to do.
non-judgmental awareness. I think that's an
Of
important
course.
piece of mindfulness, right? So you're not there to judge or fix because you're not broken, and to
100%.
just see what's going on. Yeah.
Yes. The 5 questions, which I really liked, going into self-exploration, if you're into journaling or just taking up journaling or find yourself not being able to sleep at night, fall asleep, stay asleep, and you feel like it's anxiety, your mind's racing, these are 5 questions that you can journal, and it can drastically improve your ability to explore yourself versus just like, "I don't know what to write."
Mhm.
So the first question is, "What am I really worried about?" What am I really worried about? And this kind of goes right in line with what you were just talking about. Uh, keep asking why.
Right.
Not what am I super worried about, but what am I actually worried about?
Mhm.
Right? What is the thing? Like you said, well, I'm worried that I'm worried that my son isn't gonna get a good grade on his test. Okay, why does that matter? Why are you worried about that?
Mhm.
Well, because if it keeps happening, he's not going to do well in school. And yeah, if that happens, what are you worried about? Well, I'm worried about him, like, becoming a bum and never getting a
Mhm.
job.
Right.
And then, okay, well, why does that matter? Well, because
Mm.
I would feel like I failed as a parent.
Mhm.
Ah,
Mhm.
now you got to the core.
Right.
So now we can solve. Um, so anyway, that's question one. Question two is, what am I sad about? What's making me sad, right? We're talking about primary emotions.
Mhm.
Another one is, who has annoyed me, which, is an interesting one.
Mhm.
Um, but they're all things, that kind of with what Coach Charity said is, it's almost like appeasing our inner child. A lot of us just go through life, and I did for a long time, just ignoring all of these emotions and being like, yeah, I'll feel when I'm dead, right? Which is like kind of the opposite. You feel- so it's like if you really want to be able to experience everything life has to offer, we can't be numb. And a lot of us, like I know for me, I numbed myself for many, many years by just ignoring all the emotions I felt. And it made sense how kind of that manifested into like having apathy and not really liking, you know, life. So it does take work and some self discovery, but I can promise you on the other side of these questions is probably a more fruitful life potentially.
Mhm.
Um,
And I think emotions, they're people. Like you can think of them as inviting them into your house. All they want to do is be seen and invited and maybe say, hey, this is sadness. Welcome, here's a chair. Hey, this is anger. Hello there. You're here to teach me something, kind of thing. Because the more we push them away, right, they just get bigger and get manifest and change in the corner. So I just think
yeah,
offer them some cookies, give anger a popsicle and call it good. I don't know,
I
whatever.
love your analogies. I love it. It's so fun. Yeah, I think too, like it's contradictory, or I don't know if contradictory, but it has the opposite effect that we want. For example, we don't want to feel angry or we don't want to feel the emotions, so we suppress it, we move it to the side, say I'll deal with this later. And like unfortunately that's what RNs have to deal with a lot of the time, because like what are you told in nursing school? Like you are told, essentially, paraphrasing, any emotion you feel, suppress it because you
Mm,
have a job to do. No wonder, right? Because like you're essentially rewarded for this behavior that is really not that healthy. Now, don't get me wrong. Does it make you a better RN in the moment? Sure. Does it make you a better RN in the long term? No. And this is why, unfortunately, the healthcare has high. I how can I say that? Healthcare has a lot of, well, I guess any position has uh, people that aren't feeling their best. But I would say that because I've worked with general population and I've worked with RNs and healthcare workers, I find a higher percentage of total people that work in healthcare are kind of at this point that they are, I don't want to say suppressed, but they
Mhm.
are unhappy,
Mhm.
maybe is the word, and don't
Maybe.
really know how to
There's probably a
navigate.
lot of things. They need the feelings wheels to be able to tell you all the things that they are, that they haven't
Mm,
even maybe recognized. Because I've had some that I talk to, and I'm like, "So how is your stress?" And they start crying because they're just like, "I don't even think about that," because I don't want to. Maybe they suppress it. Maybe they also push it down. They feed themselves emotionally, and then they're like, "I've never had somebody ask me that." And then they look at it, and then they find out you can manage. And if some people even deal with this with grief, if you start crying, some people are afraid they'll never stop. Well, that's kind of impossible. But if you never start, you're never going to get rid of it. And it can just morph in your body into many different ways and come out in ways you would never have understood or had known. You might not be the person that you want to be when that's happening too.
yeah, one of the most, I think, powerful things we can do for ourselves is get back to baseline, which, depending on how long it's been since we've asked these questions, it can be some it could be some time, it can be some work, but on the other side is something really amazing.
Mhm.
So
I love the question,
some
what do
good.
I actually need or what do I actually want? Because you can
So
ask
it's
yourself that with food, and like with your emotions.
yeah,
Maybe you need comfort. Maybe you get that from hugging your cat rather than stuffing a bowl of mashed potatoes down your face. I don't know what people do for comfort food, but so what if and does that really give you comfort? A blanket and a hug from someone else, yes, that might give you comfort for sure, but I'm pretty sure the food's not going to have the feeling that you want.
yeah, we think it does, or maybe it does to some degree. And that goes right in line with what the fourth question is, which is, what does my body want?
Mhm.
Which is right in line with that. And that could mean, like, what do my organs want? If my organs could speak, what would they want?
Mhm.
How do I feel? Like you said, well, I feel tired. Your body probably wants some sleep.
Right.
I know that for me in my early 20s, I used to think a lot of the time, I'm tired and I don't want to feel tired. How do I get rid of feeling tired? Tired is the enemy.
Mhm.
When really, tired's a signal.
Mhm.
And if you don't feel tired until, like, if you don't feel tired all the way through the day because, we're essentially intoxicating ourselves or like having a bunch of caffeine, and then we just fall asleep the second we hit the pillow, that just means we're exhausted. So like, if you can fall asleep, like I've had some people tell me too, like, and like I've been like this too. I used to say the same question, or I used to ask the same question: why can't I fall right to sleep at night? And the reason you can't fall right asleep at night is because if you're well rested and you go from a stimulating task to try to go to sleep, it's like being on the top of a mountain and then saying, I want to be on the ground.
Mhm.
And it just doesn't happen. You have to climb back down the mountain.
Right.
So at night, if you are well rested, you will need a wind down ritual. Now, a wind down ritual doesn't mean you have to like sit and meditate for an hour, but what it means is you take your brain from doing exciting things like TV or social media or the news or anything like that, and you choose less stimulating things to bring you down. Because if you are well rested, you shouldn't be able to go right to sleep after doing something stimulating. You shouldn't, it wouldn't make sense. That only happens if you're exhausted.
Right. Yeah. Good stuff. And I love that idea that emotions are indicators, not dictators, right? And your brain's mostly
Yes,
there for entertainment. So be careful what you choose to listen to.
definitely. So, recap on these 5 questions. What am I really worried about? What am I sad about? Who has annoyed me? What does my body want? And then the last question is, what is still lovely? And this
Oh,
is
I
a great
love that
question.
ending.
Yeah, because, like, here we are, like, we're getting out of all these, uncomfortable emotions, all these things that are happening,
Mhm.
where we're addressing all this stuff. It's important to end on, despite all the things that might be uncomfortable that I've just, addressed, what is still great? And that greatness might be something like Charity said in the past, like the wind hitting your face. It might be the sun coming in through the window. It might be, the fact that like, this morning before you went to work, you had an exchange with your son or your daughter or your husband or your wife or whatever. And, it was like a magic moment that you can appreciate.
Mhm,
Because I'm sure we would all agree that the magic moments are happening every day, but they take conscious effort to appreciate.
mhm,
Without the conscious effort of appreciating what could be a magic moment, we will not see them. It's kind of that idea of stop and smell the roses.
mhm.
It's true. I mean, there's things that we can be grateful for all around us, but it's just really hard to shift from I am like angry, sad, frustrated, and feel all these emotions to feel life. Like, no, like I've been on this side, man. And like, I remember it's so funny because like if I met Charity when I was 20 and she came to me as she is now, and I came to her, I'm like, oh yeah, I don't know what's going on. I have all these, challenges. And she's like, you just gotta
Let's breathe.
breathe.
You're
I
gonna be like,
used to hate people
"Oh,
that
you're
were
getting
like
aggressive." I couldn't.
yogis. Oh my
Mhm.
God, that were like yoga people. And they're like, oh my, like, you just gotta be, like, you just gotta be present. I'm like, screw your presence. I'm trying to, like, push and
Use the
grow
world,
and all
set
this
it on
stuff.
fire. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
But that's what happens is like I set myself on fire. It's like,
Mhm.
I burn myself out, burn the
Yeah.
candle because I never addressed the emotions that were there. But I can promise you that as you start to ask these questions, you can get to this point that you can more easily have these kind of magic moments. And there's nothing more that I'd wish for anybody that is feeling angry, stressed, sad, or I should say, and stress isn't an emotion, primary emotion, but like stress, I'm sorry, stress isn't a primary emotion, but like anger, sadness, uh, even annoyance. If you can resolve these, it makes it a lot easier to start to experience more of how we felt before. I talked to a lot of RNs or have in the past, especially that as I'm talking to them on like their intro call, they'll say, and I've heard it a lot of times, like they feel like they've lost their spark.
Mm.
And this spark, I think, is like just when they could feel things, right? When we didn't have as much repressed emotion, when we could feel. Because like I know I've been at times in my life that I've just been so bogged down, like I was numb and I had apathy towards life and towards many things because I was just very apathetic. Like, you know, life's not that fun when you don't feel, you know. So
And think
anyway,
of a child, right? Come back to like a beginner's mind and think of children. Everything is new. You think I've been around the sun so many times, I've seen it all before, blah, blah. Ugh, but dull. No, you haven't seen it all before. It's a new moment, so it's a new thing. That flower probably changed. The ducks down the street just had ducklings. I mean, seriously, there's all sorts of fun stuff to look for. But I think that, of course, we've talked about this. The more you look for something, the more you see it. I've been teasing myself with black trucks. Do you know how many black trucks I've been seeing now? It's a crazy. I think that's all that's on the road at this point. I need to think of
all
a
right,
different color car. But it is amazing how you can play with your brain like that. So have fun.
I
Beginner's
love it.
mind, child, or get down, like go down, like on the floor, because their vision is completely different than yours. Just imagine, get a new perspective. That's why like forward folds are so good. Hang upside down, do a cartwheel. You don't have to go that
Yep.
extreme if you don't want to, but just shift your perspective, and your perspective shifts.
And just to kind of wrap it all up, it's funny because like here we are, we're a group talking about essentially weight loss and body transformation. Why are we talking about emotions and mindfulness? It's like this is the unsexy part of what a lot of, I'll say, coaching programs won't talk about, or people will talk about when they're trying to sell you, like, hey, like do our coaching program. But like, this is the stuff that actually matters because this is the stuff that once you uncover it and you work through, which if you work with us, we'll work through it with you, that you can then harness the mechanics. And a lot of the times it's things you already know how to do. You already know to exercise, you already know to sleep, but it makes those things become effortless because there is no internal conflict within you. And that is some of the most freedom that you can experience because this isn't just about looking a certain way. Ultimately, it's about feeling
Yeah.
a certain way.
Yeah.
And I can promise you that if we take your brain if you are not feeling your best right now, and we take your brain and we put it into a supermodel body or whatever body you want, you may not feel as good as you want to feel. Because remember, the body is just a manifestation of what's in the mind. So change the mind, the body will follow. What you focus on, you'll feel. And where focus goes, energy flows, results soon follow. So
And hold on a
keep
second, mindfulness is sexy. You know, happy people are sexy, and usually people who
this
are
is true.
mindful are happy. So it's not all unsexiness. It's all
Well,
of us.
what I mean is like it's not like it's not hot. It's not like sexy. It's not a novel, maybe.
Yeah.
Is that the word? I don't know. Like when I say sexy, I mean like, for example, when I first started, it's like you see these everywhere. So like lose 21 pounds in 21 days. Like
Uh,
you can't go and look at like any type of Jenny Craig or anything commercial until you
mhm,
see like you see that stuff everywhere. 21 pounds, 21 days. And it's like, yeah, but out of those 21 pounds, you're losing maybe 8 pounds of fat, you're losing muscle, you're losing water. Because
mhm,
like you're not unless even if you ate 0 calories, you still can't lose 21 pounds of fat in 21 days. It's not going to
mhm.
happen. Just scientifically not going to happen. So yeah, that's kind of interesting. I say not sexy because if you put on a board, coaching to mindfulness coaching to help you lose weight, people will be like, I don't care. But if you're like lose 21 pounds in 21 days, people are like, yeah. So hopefully we have a good mix of it in here. That's why I created all of the trainings as well. We had a question that came in, again, more of a mechanics question from Corey. What meal plan and exercises fits for a 67-year-old? Please help. So we'd love to help you. So from a perspective of starting, of course, we can't really say like, hey, do this. We need context, right?
Right.
But let me give you some general place to start. First place to start is I have a video in this group. It's called How to Lose 1 Pound Per Week Until You're at Your Goal. In there, it will tell you exactly how many calories you need, how many, like how much protein you need, how to start calculating it, what food you can start incorporating, stuff like that. That's what I'd recommend. Um, as far as a meal plan, get in some lean meats, right? Get in your fruits and vegetables. It's stuff you already know. If you're looking, and it depends on what your goal is, right? Uh, if your goal is to lose weight, you need to eat no caloric deficit. If you're 67, like you said, and your goal is just to like feel good, again, the meal plan might be a little bit different, and exercises depending on where you're starting from. So I know this is probably a longer answer than you want, Corey, but exercise, like, what is the highest exercise you can do without any chance of getting injured? That's usually where we start. For an ex-athlete, that might be, like professional athlete that still exercises, that might be like, you know, doing gymnastics, like still doing gymnastics rings and stuff like that. Like they already are conditioned. For someone who's 67 that has not exercised in a long time, walking is a fine place to start. Walking, body weight exercises, getting up and down off the floor. As crazy as that sounds, my oldest client was 78 years old, never exercised a day in her life, ever. And funny enough, her son was a personal trainer. uh, but she didn't want to work with him because, she's like, he's my son. And so we worked together, and she literally, like, one of her exercises, because one of her main goals was getting up and down off the floor. One of
Mhm,
the exercises was like assisted getting up and down from the floor,
mhm.
because that is a specific exercise that will help you with that specific result. Now, of course, you can do other things, but then over time, she stopped using as much help on the chair.
Systems, right?
And then eventually she was doing it just with her hands and her feet. And then eventually she would do it just with her feet, no hands. She would start crisscross on the floor, unfold her feet, put them like right next to her hips, and stand up.
Yep.
78 years old, or 79 at that
Awesome.
time.
There's no reason why you shouldn't. I mean, that's why gardening and outside and like people who still chop wood late into their years and stuff, because they're using those full range of body motion and keeping those
Yeah.
joints all happy and stuff. Yeah. Good
100%.
job.
So she says weight loss and feel good. How much weight? But regardless, with how much weight, it would be, especially if your goal is to feel good as well, you want to make sure that you're shooting for something sustainable enough to lose the weight, meaning like if your goal is to lose 50 pounds, you could do it in 25 weeks, but the odds of you getting to 25 weeks losing 2 pounds a week are low because it's so much strain mentally to be in that big of a caloric deficit. Whereas if you were to lose 1 pound a week for 50 weeks, the odds of you getting all the way there is a lot higher because it's about likelihood of success. It's not about how quickly you can do it. I could help you lose 40 pounds in 20, 16 weeks, but the odds of you actually making it to the end are slim. So that's something good to keep in mind. The fact that you do Zumba 4 times a week is awesome. Love it.
Mhm.
And I would imagine you do Zumba 4 times a week because you love it. Good. Do it. Keep doing it. That you're moving your body. That's better than walking. That's like right in between, walking and running, or it might even be as equivalent to running, which is great. I mean, you're using your body in complex ways more than just walking in a straight line. That's fantastic.
Mhm.
Do it. Now, should you also probably be doing some resistance training in addition to this? If you want optimal results, yeah, I would, especially being 67 years old, where essentially every year that goes on, you're going to lose more and more muscle. One of the best determiners of how long you're going to live is going to be the amount of lean muscle you have in your frame. So, your ability to, if you ever do get sick or get a hip injury or whatever, you need surgery and then you can't eat after the surgery, one of the biggest predictors of your ability to survive, and I know that sounds weird to say, but to survive is the amount of lean muscle you have on your frame because that muscle is fuel and it's dense fuel. So, something to keep in mind. Um, I would definitely make sure. So like in which is two different things. So like you build muscle and you lose fat in opposite directions. You build muscle unless you're completely fresh, completely green. But if you're building muscle, you need to be eating in a slight caloric surplus, which means you have to be eating more calories than you burn in a day. If you want to lose weight, you have to be eating in a caloric deficit. So those are opposite directions. You can do both at the same time if you're just starting, but it's going to be nominal. If you really want to push and get your body to a very, not super physiological, but like a great place with lean body mass and muscle mass, then do a fat loss phase, lose as much weight as you feel comfortable with. Maybe it's 15 pounds in 15 weeks. And then after those 15 weeks, go into a caloric surplus, only about 2 to 300 a day. That's really all it takes. Make sure you're eating about 0.75 percent of your weight in grams for protein. That'll be more than enough to be able to keep you satiated and to be able to increase your muscle mass. And then you'll be good to go. And then you can come back in this group in a year and be like, look what I did.
That'd be awesome.
um, yeah, and if you feel like you need any help with that, like you need more personalization or stuff like that, feel free to book a call somewhere with us, and we can help you further. But honestly, it doesn't seem like if I were to ask you, like, hey, do you need to be told what to do, or do you feel like you need help navigating the ups and downs of the journey? And like, yes, you need the mechanics, but also like the emotional side, like up and down. I can't stick to it. I'm like stressed, all these things. If it's just the former, I would say just like consume all the content in this group that you can, because there's more than enough information in here that's tactical to be able to get you where you want to get to. But if you've started and stopped this journey multiple times over the years and you don't know why, you don't know how to solve it, um, and you feel like you need the emotional support of a coach, then I would recommend coaching. But honestly, not everyone, like we're about to hit 10,000 members in this group, which is freaking crazy. Um, but I would say, not everyone that joins this group needs a coach. Probably not even half the people, straight up. Because like some of us just need the mechanics, and that's okay. That's why created this group. It's here. But if you need more of the mental side, that's where coaching really comes into place. Or if you feel like you just want somebody to hold your hand, which is good too. Yay, very informative. Thank you so much. Please let me know the website that I can follow you. You're on it. You can follow us here. We're also on Spotify and YouTube and, wherever Facebook. I mean, we're on Facebook now. Pretty much anywhere. We're not on TikTok, though. I mean, technically, I guess we are, but like, not really. I've really not been doing much with the other social media. We've just been making podcasts. We just get on here and talk for 30 minutes a day, and hopefully it helps some people. Any other questions here? Questions, comments? Okay, great. Thanks so much. My pleasure. Any other questions here before we wrap up? I see, about a dozen of your eyeballs out there. I can hear you breathing. Let us know if you have any questions. Write them in the comments. We'll answer. And if this is helpful, feel free to like this. It shows it to more people in the group. At the end of the day, our mission is to be able to have our little dent impact on healthcare. We want to help change healthcare by changing or really impacting the backbone of healthcare, which is registered nurses, right? Nurses, registered nurses. If they can increase patient care, then we'll have our little dent on healthcare. So indirectly. Cool. Sorry, missed the conversation. I don't even remember what I said. So anyway, see you guys. Bye.